A few months ago, Honda launched the BR-V and we put it up against the Creta to tell you all about it. Of course, at the time, we had the manual gearbox diesels with us on the show, and here is a quick glimpse of what we thought about them.
The 6-speed gearbox on this car has been married really well to this unit, but the engine itself is a little bit crude. It's got a lot of grunt and almost too much in the sense that it comes across as very unrefined. And I think that's the big distinct difference in character between the drivetrain on this car versus the one on the BR-V.
Yes, the diesel ID tech on the Honda is definitely a fun motor, but it is very noisy.
It's a noisy engine, and that's a problem because NVH levels could have been a lot better, even though Honda says it's really worked on that on the BR-V. The other thing about this engine that instantly stands out is that there is a slightly different character to how this engine has performed on other Honda models that we've seen it on. It has a nice driving range, and there's a good amount of low and mid-range torque, which gives you a lot of flexibility in city traffic especially, and interestingly, a nice highway cruising character too. So it feels good when you're driving it on the highway. In fact, even the noise levels kind of settle down to a good hum when you're on the highway. But on the whole, the diesel is certainly the one that I think that people are going to be attracted to, because there's also no sense of lag from this car.
And that for you was the recap of the diesel Creta and the diesel BR-V. Now yes, we know we've been repeating ourselves a little on this, but the diesel ban, although of course only in the NCR and Delhi region, has cast a lot of doubts in a lot of people's heads about the future of the diesel engine in India. But we have been getting a lot of queries on petrol-powered SUVs on our social media pages and on the website. Now, which is why we have these two here today, the BR-V petrol and the Creta petrol. Now these aren't just normal petrol versions, they are the automatics. And that's what people ask us the most. But before we get into the engines, let's quickly sum up what these two cars have to offer and how they are different from each other. When it comes to the exterior looks, the Creta is clearly the winner, and with a more upright and more aggressive SUV stance. The BR-V does take a hit as it has the van-like profile, but there are aspects of the car that I like the way the rear end looks, for example. On the inside, the BR-V is more spacious of the two and offers 2 more seats. So if 7 seats is a big criteria for you, the BR-V is a definite winner. But the Creta does get a lot more kit as standard, like the large touchscreen infotainment setup. Both cars have features like a start-stop button, climate control and steering mounted audio and phone controls, but the Creta does get rear parking sensors and a reversing camera. But let's not go on about how much tech and space each car has and get straight into why they're actually here on the show again. Now mechanically, the BR-V automatic is exactly the same as the manual. You get the same 1.5 litre engine that you have in the Honda City and the Mobilio before it, iVTEC, tried and tested. It gives you about 117 bhp of peak power and 145 Nm of peak torque. And it gets this CVT gearbox. Now, yes, of course, paddle shifters, but my problem with the CVT is what exactly my problem with the CVT has been all along. It's just too groany and too noisy and too rubber bandy when you actually rev it harder. If you want to drive fast or drive sporty, the CVT is not the ideal gearbox. In the city though, in start and stop traffic, just pottering about town, going to get a couple of groceries, this car is perfect. The CVT gearbox is quiet, it's refined, it's smooth, and on top of everything, it's just easy to drive. But steering feel on this car is on the sportier side as compared to something as easy to drive as the Creta, because that has electronic power steering. When it comes to parking the BR-V, some people might have a little bit of trouble because of the slightly stiffer steering, but otherwise it's an easy car to drive. So the Creta's engine is slightly larger than the one you get on the BR-V. It's a 1.6 and it gets more power, 122 horsepower and 154 Nm of torque. But the biggest difference is this car gets a conventional 6-speed automatic gearbox. Yes, you don't get the paddle shifters that you get on the BRV, but this gearbox is just a lot better. It might not be as smooth in city traffic conditions or in start-stop traffic, but when you really open the taps and when you're cruising on the highway, this is definitely a better gearbox. The Creta is also slightly quicker than the BRV when you actually go to think of it. And when you pull out of a lane, when you want to overtake somebody, it's a lot more drivable. Again, that's down to the fact the CVT is a little slow to respond at full throttle acceleration compared to something like this. Now this gearbox and this engine combination in the Creta works really well. In fact, in our opinion, it's actually better than the diesel automatic.
The Creta is still the better car of the two, and considering the fact that you can get pretty much an automatic gearbox option on both the petrol and the diesel engine, it is also a great package. Again, if just driving around the city is what your commute is, then the BRV is the easier car to drive. But we cannot ignore the fact that the Creta just feels a lot more mature in its driving feel. That said, the Creta is almost rupees 1 lakh more expensive than the BRV, but we still think that it is worth it.